You know, that feeling right in the middle of a really stressful week when you just want to drop absolutely everything.
Oh, totally. I think we all know that feeling.
Right. Like you are just overwhelmed by obligations. Your calendar is a complete mess of color-coded blocks, and people are demanding your energy left and right.
Yeah, and suddenly there is this intense, almost overwhelming desire for total, unrestricted freedom.
Exactly. You just want to, I don't know, pack a single bag, throw your phone out the car window, and drive until you hit the ocean.
It is a deeply universal human fantasy. We just crave this idealized version of independence where there is zero friction, zero responsibility, and, well, nothing holding us back.
Yeah, we really do.
We often equate being completely unattached with being completely free. Like, we look at the commitments in our lives, our jobs, our families, our deep relationships, and in moments of exhaustion, we view them solely as weights.
That tension right there between wanting to fly free and
Mm.
feeling tied down, that is the exact foundation of our deep dive today.
I'm really excited for this one.
Me too. We are looking at a single, highly concentrated source for this conversation. It's a visual text, basically a modern parable, and it's titled The Thread of Connection.
Which sounds lovely, but it packs a punch.
It really does.
Mhm.
On the surface, it uses a very simple story about a kite soaring in the wind. But as we pull it apart, you'll see that this source completely flips our traditional understanding of what it means to be tied down in a relationship.
It basically takes a standard principle of aerodynamics and forces us to fundamentally reevaluate our entire definition of freedom.
Okay, so let's jump right into the first half of the text. A narrator is just watching a kite fly high in the sky.
And the visual of the kite is incredibly potent for this. When you watch a kite fly, it looks so, effortless.
All right, it's just up there dancing in the clouds.
Exactly, and it appears to belong entirely to the sky. But the parable introduces a bit of personification to set up the core conflict. It actually gives the kite a voice.
Yeah, and the dialogue is so specific and honestly a little comical. The kite is flying incredibly high, enjoying the altitude, and it looks down at the string connecting it to the ground.
And what does it say?
The kite actually complains to the string. It says, "Friend, if this string weren't here, I'd fly so much higher and have so much fun."
The arrogance of the kite is amazing.
It really is. It is brimming with this naive confidence. It looks at the very thing tethering it to the earth and identifies it as the only obstacle to achieving even greater heights.
And the string does not take that well.
Not at all. The string, getting angry, just snaps. It literally breaks and tells the kite, "Go then, let's see you fly."
Wow.
Okay, let's unpack this, because
Wow.
the irony of the kite's wording is just incredible to me.
Oh, for sure.
The kite calls the string friend, right before essentially telling it that it's ruining its life. It's like a teenager yelling at their parents that they can't wait to move out.
Completely ignoring the fact that the parents are the ones paying for the roof over their head.
Exactly. It's that exact same energy.
What's fascinating here is the fundamental misunderstanding of physics, which the text later maps onto a misunderstanding of human psychology.
Right. The kite thinks the string is the enemy.
Because the kite is up in the sky, experiencing the thrill of flight, and it perceives the tension of the string purely as a limitation. It feels a constant downward pull.
Right.
So it thinks logically, even if it's flawed logic, I want to go up, this thing is pulling down, therefore this thing is my enemy.
Which completely ignores how lift actually works. I was thinking about this in terms of sailing.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Yeah, it reminds me of the keel of a sailboat. If you look at a sailboat from the outside, the wind is what pushes it forward. But underneath the water, there is this massive, heavy keel creating intense resistance against the water.
Yeah, it's fighting the drift.
Exactly.
Hmm.
If you were the sail, you might think the keel is just dragging you down, making you work harder.
Yeah.
But if you chop the keel off, the boat doesn't suddenly go faster.
No, the wind just blows the boat completely over.
Right. The resistance is the very thing that allows for forward momentum.
That mechanical parallel perfectly captures the kite's dilemma. Without the string anchoring the kite, holding it taut against the wind at a specific angle of attack, the kite literally cannot create lift.
The limitation is the engine of its flight.
Precisely. The tension isn't preventing the kite from reaching its potential. The tension is the only reason the kite is in the air at all. It is a paradox that the kite, blinded by its own altitude, just fails to see.
And the text gives us a very deliberate, specific description of what happens after the string snaps.
It doesn't happen all at once, does it?
No, it doesn't. The narrator of the parable says, I watched as the kite slowly began and finally it fell to the ground.
That word slowly is so important.
It carries so much weight. The kite doesn't just turn into a stone and drop instantly.
Right. That slow descent is arguably the most crucial part in the physical metaphor. When the string breaks, the tension is released. And for a split second, the kite might actually surge upward a few inches.
Oh, like a false positive.
Exactly. The immediate release of pressure creates this illusion. The kite likely thinks, I was right. Look at me go.
But it's just residual momentum.
Yeah. Once that momentum dissipates, the reality of the disconnected state sets in. The kite loses its angle against the wind.
It basically stops being a wing and just becomes a piece of paper and sticks tumbling in the breeze.
It begins to flutter, to drift, and slowly, inevitably, gravity takes over. The realization of the mistake isn't instantaneous.
Right, it's gradual.
But the loss of that critical support structure makes the crash mathematically inevitable. It goes from soaring with direction and purpose to being entirely at the mercy of random gusts.
Eventually ending up in the dirt.
Yeah.
Now, if this source were just a quirky physics lesson about aerodynamics, we could honestly wrap up the deep dive right here. We could walk away knowing that tension creates lift.
But it goes much deeper than that.
Way deeper. The text makes a hard pivot from the open sky directly into our living rooms. It explicitly takes this truth about kites and wind and applies it to human bonds.
Specifically pointing to, quote, the thread of love between husband and wife.
Right. It bridges the gap between the physical reality of the kite and the emotional reality of human connection. The scenario it lays out brings that opening feeling you mentioned, the desire to escape all obligations, into a very specific, highly relatable domestic context.
What does the text say exactly about that?
It says, sometimes during a fight, one thinks it would be better to be alone, not tied down in this marriage bond.
Wow. Very direct.
Extremely direct. But wait, let's be real for a second, though. When you are in the heat of a massive argument with a partner, that tension does not feel like a helpful aerodynamic tool.
Oh, definitely not.
It feels completely exhausting, like you are clashing, you're compromising for the 100th time. You are dealing with the intense friction of trying to share a life with another complex human being.
It's hard work.
It really is. So I have to ask, does comparing the profound difficulty of a marriage to flying a child's toy gloss over how painful that friction actually is?
That's a really valid pushback. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the source handles that incredibly well by not minimizing the pain at all.
How so?
Notice that the text explicitly says, sometimes during a fight, one thinks. It completely validates the struggle.
Oh, I see.
It acknowledges that fights happen, that the friction is intensely real, and that the desire to sever the tie is a totally natural human fight-or-flight reaction to conflict. It doesn't judge the anger at all.
It doesn't label the thought as wrong.
Right. Instead, it poses a vital rhetorical question right after that thought. The text asks, when that bond breaks, can one really fly free and high in the sky, just as the kite thought?
So it's basically asking us to pause the tape in the middle of our anger and fast forward to the actual consequences.
Exactly. It challenges the assumption that the absence of a partner automatically equals the presence of freedom.
Because if we think back to the mechanics of the kite, that initial breakup, the snapping of the string might actually feel amazing for a minute.
You get that upward surge of momentum.
Yeah. You don't have to argue anymore. You don't have to compromise your weekend plans. You can leave your dishes in the sink. It feels like total liberation.
But then the momentum fades.
Just like the kite.
Just like the kite. The source asks us to look past the temporary anger and critically consider the long-term reality of isolation that follows that initial surge.
Without the string.
Right. Without the partner to push back against, to ground you, to challenge your worst impulses, the slow drift begins. You lose the person who acts as your sounding board.
And you lose the friction that forces you to refine your ideas.
Exactly. You need that friction to grow past your own selfish tendencies, to maintain a steady angle against the turbulent events of life.
So the resistance isn't just a byproduct of the connection. It's literally the engine of our own personal growth.
That is spot on.
Without the friction of someone who truly knows you challenging you, you aren't flying freely. You are just untethered, waiting for gravity to pull you down into your own bad habits or, complacency.
And gravity, in the human experience, is that echo chamber of our own unchallenged thoughts. We need that external force to give us an angle to rise against.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
The text is asking us to differentiate between the discomfort of being anchored and the disaster of being unmoored. The friction we so frequently resent in a deep relationship is often the very dynamic that keeps us engaged with the world.
It provides a shared, meaningful trajectory.
Precisely.
Which brings us to the core philosophy of this entire text. The overarching thesis that delivers the ultimate answer to whether breaking the bond actually results in freedom.
This is the best part.
The source concludes with this incredibly powerful statement. The thread of connection is not a shackle, but a support. It keeps life secure, not by preventing flight, but by providing the right direction.
That distinction between a shackle and a support forces complete reevaluation of how we view our commitments.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Let's look at the contrast between those two words, shackle and support, because it's stunning when you really think about the imagery.
A shackle is heavy.
Yeah, it's forged from iron. Its entire design and purpose is to keep you locked in a dark cell, to restrict your movement entirely, and, well, to punish you.
Right.
But the string, this thread of connection, is fundamentally different. It is incredibly light. From a distance, another person might not even be able to see it.
It allows for a massive sweeping range of movement.
Yes, and most importantly, it is designed to keep you in the open sky, not in a cage.
That visual distinction gets to the absolute heart of the text's most important underlying question. This raises an important question, really. What is true freedom?
Because society tells us something very different.
Exactly. We are constantly fed the societal narrative that freedom is absolute autonomy, the lone wolf, the solitary genius operating without any attachments.
We are sold the idea that true freedom is the complete absence of all constraints and obligations.
But the kite proves that a complete absence of constraint just leaves you tumbling into the dirt. Total autonomy isn't flight.
It's just a different kind of falling.
Wow. Yes. Meaningful flight, which translates in our lives to sustained happiness, personal growth, realizing our potential. That requires an anchor.
True freedom isn't floating aimlessly in a vacuum.
Right. The bond of a healthy marriage or any deep committed partnership doesn't erase your individuality. It doesn't stop you from being yourself. What it actually does is angle you against the chaotic winds of life so you can leverage those forces to soar.
And life guarantees wind. We all face immense turbulence, financial crises, health scares, sudden career changes, profound losses.
It's unavoidable.
If you have no anchor, if you are completely unattached, a massive gust of wind just blows you into a tree. You tumble. You have no leverage to fight back.
But if you have that thread.
Exactly. If you have that tension with a partner who is holding steady on the ground with you, that same terrifying gust of wind can actually lift you both up. You weather the storm because the tension between you absorbs the shock and converts it into stability.
It highlights the profound difference between independence and interdependence. Independence is the kite demanding the string be cut, prioritizing momentary autonomy over sustained flight.
Right.
Interdependence is recognizing that the string and the kite absolutely require each other to achieve something neither could ever accomplish alone.
The string cannot fly on its own.
And the kite cannot stay aloft without the string. They work in a continuous dynamic tandem. The tension isn't a flaw in the system. The tension is the system itself.
The tension is the system. I love that. That completely reframes how we experience conflict.
It really does.
Think about the implications for your own life. The next time you are in an argument with your partner and you feel that tug, that exhaustion of being pulled and compromised, you might be able to pause and reframe the moment.
Instead of thinking, I need to cut this tie to be free.
Right. You can recognize, wait, this isn't a shackle holding me back. This is the tension of the string keeping us both aloft. It completely changes the architecture of a disagreement.
It replaces resentment with a profound sense of gratitude for the very things we typically complain about.
The daily obligations, the constant need to compromise.
The shared burdens of managing a household or a life together. These aren't weights dragging us down into mediocrity. They are the intricate mechanisms of our security.
As the text explicitly states, the thread keeps life secure by providing the right direction. It gives our wild, chaotic trajectory a sense of purpose and meaning.
It really is beautiful when you look at it that way.
To bring all of this together, we started today with a simple observation of a kite dancing in the wind, and we unpacked a profound realization about the architecture of human connection.
We explored the physics of flight and saw how easy it is, in the arrogance of our own ambition, to resent the things that anchor us.
We mapped that physical reality onto our emotional lives, seeing how the immediate gratification of ending a conflict by walking away inevitably leads to a slow, aimless drift.
And ultimately, we learn that the ties that bind us, even the ones that cause immense friction and frustration in the heat of the moment, are very often the exact things providing the vital tension we need to stay aloft in a turbulent world. It serves as a necessary daily reminder to examine the commitments in our own lives, not as limitations to our freedom, but as the very foundations that make our freedom and growth possible.
It's a paradigm shift for anyone who has ever felt overwhelmed by their obligations to the people they love. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I will leave you, the listener, with a final lingering thought to explore on your own.
Okay, I'm ready.
We have spent this entire time talking about the kite, the string, and the wind. The string provides the direction and the anchor, the kite provides the ambition and the surface area to rise, and the wind is the chaotic, turbulent force of life, pushing against it all to create lift.
Right.
But what happens when the wind of life stops blowing entirely?
Oh, wow. That pushes the metaphor into really interesting territory.
Doesn't it? What happens during those quiet periods of life where there is no crisis, no major external challenge to fight against, no upward momentum at all?
When the sky is completely still and routine sets in.
Exactly. How do the kite and the string work together then to keep the connection alive and the tension healthy when there is no wind to naturally hold them aloft?
That's a fantastic question.
It's definitely something to think about the next time life feels a little too quiet. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Take a moment today to appreciate the strings in your own life, lean into the tension that keeps you flying, and we will catch you next time.